on the front page today. Yeah, thank you, Lisa.
There we go, y'all. How are we doing? Got the dog cam kind of jacked up there today. Let's see if we can't make an adjustment. My wife stole the tripod, so we're gonna have to make do with what we got tonight. Thank y'all everybody for being here. Thanks for coming to hang out. Maybe learn a thing or two, some gym fails. Some, you don't have to have a gym fail. We got the lights on. We got the music going. I don't know that my stream manager is working the way it ought to. We'll reload it, see what happens. All right, y'all. Well, it's just going to be me tonight. Unfortunately, Paul's got to take care of some family matters that came up kind of at the end of last week. He's doing well, his family as well. He's just unable to be with us this evening. So, all your thoughts and prayers, please. All well wishes, send love and energy his way. He needs it right now. So does the rest of his people. So, without being too down and glum, though, we're gonna march forth as we do and get into some gym fails tonight. As always, just want to have a quick, 30,000 foot overview disclaimer. The purpose of our channel here, between me and Paul, streaming and trying to do some stuff on YouTube, is we believe knowledge shouldn't be gatekept, shouldn't be held behind a wall or anything. Turn this music down just a little more. Sorry, y'all. And so we strive to help give exercise knowledge and share that exercise knowledge. And this is a way we felt that we can do that as well as kind of stick to our roots and things that we enjoy. We're both nerds in our own ways. Basically grew up playing Sega Genesis and Doom. I installed, Wolfenstein 3D on all my DOS computers growing up in the computer labs and such. So, again, playing games has been a fun thing. It's something we'll do here and there, but ultimately we were really trying to give information to those who may be looking for it and wanting it and just not really, ever found a place that speaks to them or helps present it to them in a way that is applicable to their lives. So, with that being said, tonight we're watching some gym fails. These are people that most of the times are themselves videotaping themselves. Occasionally we get some candid cameras where people are sneaky and trying to, be funny and make fun of another individual trying to better themselves. That's not our mission here. Our mission here tonight is to take from their failures or mishaps and see what information we can glean and apply to ourselves, into our own workouts, and hopefully not replicate what they've done. And if we do end up in some of these scenarios, we might have a strategy or two to apply to keep ourselves on the safe side of things. Anytime, holler, stop me. Let me know if you got questions, if it's something you've dealt with and you're having struggles with. Again, going over the gym fails is just something we do to kill time until you ask a question. So without further ado, let's get into, not a doctor. Not sure if you couldn't tell already, but not a doctor. Paul's not a doctor, even though he's not here. So if you ever check one of our VODs, VODs, or our YouTubes, just know that what you're getting there. Oh, good old Spotify coming in clutch with the commercials. let me mute it. There we go. Boom. We don't need to hear it. So let's slide in to our first video. Let's see if I got it set up right. Pop. There's Paul. All right. So we'll see. We'll see what kind of Paul we get tonight. So our first one, let's get into it. All right. Oh, we talked about this one last time. So just a real recap. If you weren't here with our last one, we were just kind of picking up with this last video. It's kind of gross putting your feet on these equipments barefoot. Not just like you spreading your germs, but you're going to pick up anything that's on there as well. I'm so used to my camera being over there, so I keep looking over here. Keep in mind, like, put some socks on. There's no reason for you putting your dogs on public gym equipment. It's just not. It's not kosher. It's not couth. So, but we ragged on that pretty hard last week, so we'll move on from here. All right. So let's take it back to this. And I'm with you, Paul. That's kind of a funky road going on. Get our music back now the commercial's over here. Put a little mute music to this, huh? So off the jump here, I don't like his setup. Now I don't know what this gentleman's trying to work towards and what his goals are, right? This is not a lat row. This is more akin to maybe like a back extension. So you'll see sometimes people, there's these rigs. Let's see. Trusty paint. When in doubt, use paint, right? So there are some gym equipments that are like horse pummels, right? So there's a pad that sits on a stand here. And and then there may be another pad back here that you can hook your ankles under. And so you hook your feet and your thighs, sit here, right? And I've got this all out of proportion. But in here, your head would be somewhere up here. And you would work on flexing yourself down and then, extend yourself back up. And you'd be looking, your face would be down at the ground. There's your nose, right? So there's that kind of equipment that would be good for that kind of an exercise. Or wait, what are we doing? Now the other thing, I can't find the eraser. This one an eraser. That looks like an eraser. Get a big thick eraser. Here we go. Now there's another style that's going to be more at a taper. So it's got like something like that. Am I thinking this right? No, I'm not. But you'll have a pad kind of at an angle. And then again, it's going to be at that level. And then you'll have something down here, like a plate, that you can hook your heels in. And then you lay here. And this is again where your hips would be. And then your torso would be up here, right? And there's our dome. And then our nose. All right, and so the same idea here. This one as well, even though it's not parallel with the ground, you can still work your back extensions with this equipment. This also can be used to work hamstrings in a similar fashion as the other one that I was really roughly drawing. We do not need to save that. So all that to be said, what are you doing over there, Sparky? Get bored over there, boy. So that's why I say, that's what this guy looks like he's doing here, right? It looks like he's doing some form of back extensions versus a row. So if we're doing a full row, we'd be pulling through our shoulders and the elbows would be traveling. Whereas we see with this gentleman, there is no travel of his elbows. It's all coming from his hips or his spine more so. Right? And then the other thing we kind of watch is like, how much is this really moving? To get a tell of like how much work we're really doing. Right? Because we get nerdy about it. What is work? Work is force times distance. So again, we can measure how much work is being done by this. So just, that's kind of another way you can kind of see is you know, we're really doing much. I'm not saying he's not getting something done. Just without understanding what his goals are and what is in his program. This isn't a lat pullback. This isn't like this is not a row. This is not a cable row or a horizontal row of what he's doing. Like I said, he's doing back extensions. I would encourage him finding the appropriate equipment for it. I also feel his feet are too high. If you're doing a cable row, you put your feet more at these pads here at these angles, and then stay sitting upright. You want to be about 90 degrees at your lap, so your shoulders are roughly over your hips. I would also work on when you're setting up. I don't think we see him set. Yeah, so right here, as he's setting up, again, his feet would be lower, would be better for a horizontal row. You'd be a little further back, and that's fine. What? Sparky? Shh. 1 second, y'all. Dog getting crazy. Oh, I don't have that. Hey. I didn't give you all the doggy camera on this one here. I'll have to add that for y'all, huh? Unless one of them starts getting too cranky. Shoo. Yeah, that should be fun, right? All right. Now we got peace back in here and everybody's calm. Talking about this seated row. So again, we bring the feet lower. And then you can slide back as far as feels appropriate for you. I wouldn't be, again, he's also leaning really far back on his setup. I would, again, try to pull yourself seated forward through your core, through your body, rather than just kind of leaning back against the weight. And then from there, again, we can start that, initiate the movement through the shoulders. And then the elbows drag back behind you, emphasizing that sense of the elbows squeezing and wrapping around your rib cage there. Like I said, all we see here is back extensions, like we're just leaning back. Now, if we were going to do this as back extensions, if this was the goal, right, I would work on allowing yourself to sit as far up as you can. Even if the weight's assisting you, that's okay. Allow it. But then again, pull with the back to lean back. The reason why this isn't a great setup, right, is for you to do the contraction, you're working with gravity, right? He can just kind of go limp and he'll pull the cable, right? There's not really that engagement against gravity to pull that. He'd have more of a concentric. No, that's not true, because even as he comes back in, right, his eccentric phase is now the weight pulling it down. You're not trying to knock on the guy without fully understanding what he's doing, but the more I think about it, there's just nothing he's benefiting from this, right? Because he just leans back. It's just gravity. Gravity. That's all I know the song. That's all I know. So. Dude passed out. So this time for our PSA is breathe. Studies have shown that dead people don't breathe. So breathe. in this, we don't see what the guy was doing or not doing. He may have just been posing. You know, if we're squeezing our muscles and we're holding our cores tight, and we're not breathing, we're not getting oxygen to the body, and the body will eventually pass out. That's what happens in people in jiu-jitsu all the time, right? People don't tap and they get passed out. Doesn't matter how big or how small you are. Doesn't matter how strong or weak you are. While it may vary in how long you could go without breathing, we all have to breathe. So just make sure you're breathing, especially within the gym. If you're feeling lightheaded, sit down. It's really the best thing you can do. Avoid putting yourself in a more dangerous position than you already are. We can just look around this gym. It's a nice gym, but gyms are just full of metal corners and sharp objects, right? The weights might be rubber coated, but they go on metal bars, right? We just look around here. He's got, this metal edge of a rig right behind him. All other kinds of shit like that. So I don't know what he's doing. Just be mindful, y'all. Like, be careful with this stuff, because shit gonna hurt. Falls right into the mirror. Oh shit. I don't know what this music is, but it's very soothing. Very interesting. All right. So this is a common thing I feel I see with cable machines. Now, I don't know who's recording. This is maybe this gentleman's own recording. And again, not knowing what he's training, I don't want to dog on it too much. I'm trying to.
Her daughter Jessie loves playing detective.
A clue.
I wonder if he has a. Sorry, it's his hand. Looks like he has a does he have prosthetics on?
Was our puppy.
But it was actually our old detergent.
Oh, he has sleeves on. That's what it is. Looks like he has sleeves and gloves. Okay.
Better than the leading competitive free detergent, and it doesn't leave behind irritating residues.
So again, what is the goal? What are we aiming for here?
So it's gentle on her skin.
Case closed.
Now, if we're looking to try to get like a big chest stretch, or we're trying to work rear delts or something of that nature, right? While this will get you a stretch, he's not able to maintain it, right? And that's why he has to fly backwards and kind of counter and fight it. And then again, he kind of uses the momentum and then flies forward again. I don't know the reason to do this. I mean, if we're trying to do some sort of chest effort, then that's fine, but we'd be in a rigid position, right? We'd be in a static position to create that effort. Honestly, in these cables, I feel a little too far away to do something kind of like a chest press motion. I mean, you could just make it kind of work like he's doing, but there's a reason why these two stations are made so far away, because they're not intended to be used together, right? Now, that being said, even as he falls back here, if we're trying to get him to do a rowing motion, you'd want to be static. A lot of time, again, specialization aside, right? Again, I'm trying to make excuses for this guy for why he's doing this. I don't know what he's training for. So, like, if you're training for a specific sport or activity, nothing's going to be better than replicating that sport and activity for you to get better at it. And so there's a lot of gym equipment built to help replicate swinging a baseball bat, or to help replicate pushing a lineman or pushing someone. Hammer Strength, I know, has a couple of rigs like that, and I've seen a couple of times where, again, they've had these new kind of articulating arms they use for baseball type swings and baseball bats. So, right, we can create gym equipment around specialized movements and unique movements. However, this is a Planet Fitness, right? These are going to be for the general population, and 90% of gyms out there are going to be for general population. Why? It's like there's only like 1% that are elite athletes that are going to specialize, right? So that's why I always go back, right, to the idea of the 7 basic movements. And if we include core engagement, we can say 8. But does this fall into a hip hinge category? Not really. Does it fall into a squat? Yeah, not really. Does it fall into a lunge? And while he might be stepping, and we can make an argument those are lunge pattern to some degree, he's not really intentionally loading hit lunge. Is it a horizontal press? We don't really see a pressing motion. Is it a horizontal pull? He's pulling right now, but again, it's more as seems almost like a reaction to get ready and brace himself for the next catapulter to get the weights further up just enough to help kind of launch him forward again. And again, there's not really a vertical pull or push on this as well, right? And so when we look at things in those kind of narrow scopes, we can identify is this like a good exercise or is it a bad exercise? Is this a safe exercise or is it an unsafe exercise? And so when we see uncontrolled motion, when we see movements that are outside of kind of what I again refer to as those basic movements, those basic 7, right? It really makes me question, why are we doing this? What is it that we're benefiting? If we say, well, I'm sure he's getting his heart rate up and he's working his joints and he's just trying to do some like stretching stuff with assisted stretches. Again, I'm really trying to stretch, really stretching here, really pulling things on my back end and trying to make an argument for this gentleman. But at the end of it, it's just not safe. And there's this running forward thing. It's like in catching himself. Right? That's a good way to pop your shoulders out of socket, especially if you have them loaded too much. There's a point in here where you're going to be faster, and then all of a sudden, all that weight's really going to catch on them. Now, it's not going to be necessarily like an elastic band that pulls real, but it's going to have a similar effect. And we see it when he's running here, right? He pulls back, and then he's weightless, and he launches forward, drive, and then that pulling back. I mean, these are going to be real good ways, I feel, to set yourself up for injury. If something's not quite right and that happens, it's not going to be a good time for you. If you're looking to get your heart rate up on a treadmill. Go jogging, running, elliptical, rowing, recumbent bicycle, spin bike. Lots of ways. Even doing burpees or something of that nature is fine. Like, I'd rather it be that. When we start adding these external things that are going to be pulling and twisting and then we're this running back and forth, to me is not a safe endeavor. And what are we working towards? And that's the other part of it to me. If we can't really tell what we're working towards, and we don't have we don't know why we're doing it. Where's that risk reward idea comes back into my mind. Let's move on. But if nothing else, he made it to the gym and he is working. Okay. We're excited for this squat. Ooh. Again, I'm used to the camera over here when I'm by myself. What happened there? What happened there, y'all? He was quite surprised by that. So this is a case in bad setup. At least I feel it was a bad setup based on the result. The one is this seems way too heavy for him. But then as he's walking, it seems to me that bar is no longer, he's not hip hinged, he's really upright. And again, we talked a little bit about this last week. You got to have somewhere for that bar to sit. And again, for too upright, I mean, to me, I feel it's very straightforward, but I've also done this to myself, not to this degree. So we got our shoulders. And there's your pelvis, roughly. All right. And so you feel back on your shoulders. That low bar squat is gonna hit those shoulder blades just above your shoulder blades. So I always denote shoulder blades with like little L's. our shoulder blades here. And we're going to want to try to get that bar just above, kind of resting on this little bony shelf we create when we sit our shoulders down and back. Now you can go a little further up and you'll get into what's referred to as a high bar squat. And different variations is fine, different folks and different goals. But what we don't want the bar is to ever really to sit up on your traps, right? So if you have your head and neck here, we don't want that bar sitting up here. That's going to be too high up, but you know, that's not what this is about. So if we looked at this from the side, right? And this is what ended up happening to this gentleman. Is he put that bar kind of, let's just say, for argument's sake, kind of right here. And he was standing this vertical. Ideally, he would have had a slight hip hinge. Terrible drawing, John. With this slight hip hinge, then when that bar is sitting on his back, it actually has something underneath it, right? Whereas this one over here, there's nothing underneath the bar anymore, except for his hands miserably trying to hold on to 225 plus, which just isn't going to happen. And that's when he gets this like weird snap back and peeled back thing, right? Because he has all this mass, right? He has probably 1.5, 1 3/4 his mass on that bar. So the seesaw is just not balanced properly. He's got to get his hips back somewhat, which is going to mean he's going to have to be hinged at the hips ever slightly. It doesn't need to be a lot, but that hip hinge would save this. Hell no, that's more than 225, man. He's out of his mind. It's 315 plus, 355, 360, 365 maybe. I'm looking at that right. Let's see. We see 1, 2, 3 plates. So 315. 225 is going to be another 50. 365. 315, 50. Yeah, 365. Then another 10. 36. 375. Y'all be crazy. He's able to get off the rack. This is what I mean. He's not hinged at the hips. We can see where his hips are really under his shoulders. He's got his head really far forward. And then that bar just moves a little bit back behind him and slides off his back. And those hips have nowhere else to go but forward because, yeah, very lucky. Very lucky. Yeah, another squat here. Guys got 315. Oh. Oh, no. That didn't look like a good time. It looked like he was okay, but so this guy, again, I feel like we still see a similar kind of that bar could slide off of his back. He does have his elbows tilted up, which now he's more prying that bar towards him, which is more indicative of a shoulder mobility issue. Or again, because he feels like that bar is going to come off, he's got to roll his shoulders forward to keep the bar there. Other thing we notice from postural deviation is his head is really far jutted forward. Now, if you find this is you as well, right, this is going to be things like your subclavius underneath your collarbone is going to be tender and tight. Pec minor might have some issues. Again, even lats could be some issues. Might be that SMC, sternoclastoid mastoid or mastoid clastoid. I always get that dyslexic backwards. But those areas, those are going to be your hot spots that kind of check and probe for tightnesses and imbalances that don't allow a better tilt of those elbows forward to the spaces in front of them. He's got the weight belt, which is probably saving him in a lot of regards. But I bet you we strip this bar down and get him into these better positions, it will feel just as heavy and just as stressful, holding everything in the appropriate places. Now, one of the things we can't see as far as the actual fail here is is he wearing shoes or socks? Is he barefoot? What kind of ground is he standing on? I think last week or the week before we had a video where a young man was wearing socks and did a similar kind of exit stage left maneuver here. If you're wearing, I don't encourage it, but if you are going to wear socks while exercising or go barefoot while exercising in public gyms, try to be on rubber mats. Try to make sure you have something that's not going to allow you to slip and slide around, especially if you're lifting heavy, right? Like, again, it's that risk reward. The risk is just not worth it. There's just too much. Again, this guy's smart with having his safeties on there. It's really big, really saved him big time here. So we're glad it's not that kind of a fail. If we watch, again, he has a struggle on that first one, and we catch in, and he's getting himself together. Yeah. And in this position, we see even both knees kind of do it. Almost looks like he might have a brace. No, that's just a wrinkle. You see that knee caving in. And even over here, we look at this far right leg. It looks like it's caving in as well, which is never what you want. You don't want your knees ever caving in. You find that your knees are caving in on squats, that is a compensation. And this guy, to me, it looks like he's more slipping, but the compensation was still there, which led to the greater issue throughout and the ultimate fall. If you are going to wear them socks, lighter weight and be real keen on how you feel in those feet. And if anything starts feeling any bit wonky or out of place, slipping and sliding, be done. It's okay. Or put shoes on. We're not sponsored by them. I don't get any credit for them, but I'm a big fan of Limbs and Vivo Barefoot. I think Limbs is a U.S. vendor. In America, it gets there quicker, a little cheaper. If you're in Europe, Vivo Barefoot, awesome brand. I really like them. It just takes like a fucking month for me to get a pair of shoes from there, so I don't buy those anymore. Those are going to be those. They have excellent shoes that are going to be similar to working out barefoot. That'll help mitigate these kind of instances where we don't have these catastrophics. Oh man. Oh. All right. So when we're new at the gym, it's hard to tell what your limits and boundaries may be. And it's okay to slowly start. It's okay to start too low and build yourself up and build that comfort zone. Now, after you've been maybe at the gym for a while, maybe a year plus, and you're starting to feel a little more comfortable and knowing your boundaries and knowing what it feels like when you're about to maybe have muscular failure or you're having form failure, whatever failure you're determining by. Whenever you're really pushing that limit, always ask for a spotter or always use your safeties. This gym, again, they have a Matrix are a good brand of gym equipment. I like them. They're nice and sturdy. Not bad to look at even as well. And this one, let's call it a fault, is there's no safety bars. There's no safeties. Sometimes on bench press, it's one of those things people don't like having safeties because it limits how deep maybe they think they can go or ought to go. Oh, not that guy again. Ooh. So this guy's on the struggle bus, and I like that it doesn't have clips or bench press. Clips on bench press I think are a little bit more hazardous than safe. In this kind of moment when he's bringing it down, unfortunately, they don't actually slide. He's not able to get him to slide off before it hits, and so he gets kind of stuck. But even so, he'll be able to roll, or he can push that one side off. Now, what I was going to say though is when you're getting to these moments where you're pushing your limit, whether it's you're trying to get 15 reps or 1 rep. Whenever you know that you're really going to be pushing that limit, find somebody, even if it's the front desk. Go up to that front desk person. Hey, I need you to watch me one set. I know it's weird. I'm a dork, but I just want to be safe. Whatever. Tell us, they'll be cool with it. They'll be fine. They'll want to get away from that front desk probably too. Or find another gym goer that's nearby and just ask them for some help. Hey, I'm doing this. I'm working this exercise. I got this many reps I'm trying to do. Can you spot me? If you get asked to be a spotter, be a good spotter. Don't touch the bar unless you have to, and be in tune with them. Like be a part of the lift in that, like, you're watching them. You don't have to like stare dreamily into their eyes or anything like that, but watch them, count the reps, make sure you're on the same page with them. And when they start slowing down or struggling, start talking to them. Hey, I'm here. Let me know. You're looking good. Whatever it is. And once you start seeing that full stall and it starts going down, be there and then be ready to help. You don't have to take it all from them either. It doesn't have to be this drive in and rip it up. It can be as simple as put your hands under and apply like 4 or 5 pounds of force coming up and let them keep grinding it. Let them keep working it and make it variable if they start stalling again, give them a little more help. And if it gets to the point where you can tell they're just completely gassed, or it's getting to that point where you can't really apply a little pressure safely, then finally help them rack it and bring it in. And don't bounce it. Last thing, don't bounce it. Get that thing in as controlled as you can and pull it into the rack, pull it into the hooks, so we don't get one of these bounce out and then the person who just gave everything they had to get that thing up doesn't just get chest slammed with the bar. Now in this gentleman's case, again, if he was, I know he stalls, so he can only get so high, get the bar up so high. If he would have been able to get that 45 to slide off, that whole thing would have gone for him back up the other way. Now, as it stands at this point, it's kind of shitty altogether. We don't see how he gets fully out. It looks like he tries rolling it. I mean, if he's able to, it'd almost be like, can you push that left side off of you now that right side's on the ground versus rolling over? But rolling down through there is okay as well. Moving on. Idle hands and devil's playthings and such. The dude is clearly very ripped, or very muscular, maybe not ripped, but he's a very muscular guy. What he is doing is quite an achievement as far as being able to balance that sucker on that thing and pull his body weight up. And then he just runs that thing into his dick. This goes for me into the category of play dumb games, win dumb prizes. Right? He's doing a body row with an ab wheel. Hey, what are you expecting, right? I bet he's getting a hell of a forearm workout. I bet he's getting all kinds of stabilizing workout and core workout and all that kind of stuff. But at what cost? And is it really that much more than a body row if he'd have just done a strict body row like he's doing? Okay. Yeah, there's a lot of work going on keeping that thing on that spot. But again, I just don't see as that berry ain't worth the fruit to pick, or that juice ain't worth the fruit to squeeze. Ain't worth the squeeze. Enter a cliche here about how that's a bad idea, because you'll nut tap yourself. Oh. And if you don't have something to nut tap, you'll still hit yourself in the groin. Yep. It was over. All right. Oh, too much. Sorry, y'all. I am not an Olympic lifting coach. I don't do a lot of power clean coaching. I will say this form looks not great. We want to derive power from our posterior. It's where our larger muscle groups are. It's where we're going to get our glutes and our hamstrings really involved. What I see here first are knees bend. Yep. The knees bend, and then he hinges at his hips. The way our bodies work is the first joint we bend takes the primacy, takes the load, so to speak. So by bending the knees, he's demanding his quads take the brunt of the work, which in some cases is okay. However, when we're in an exercise that we're trying to derive maximum power, and power means maximum strength in them as quick as we can, that's a really ugly way of saying it. We're trying to move as much weight as we can, as fast as we can. Emphasis on the speed. And that's what this exercise is, a power clean. At least I assume that's what he was doing. And so by doing that, we want to get the hips involved first, and the knees and the quads are a secondary contributor, if you will. I hate how far the back this goes. So he hit knees bends, and then he does the hip hinge, and then a terrible triple extension kind of a thing. And then we melt to the floor. So hips first, then you can do your hang clean, and then we get our pop shrug. I can't really tell, but now as we slow this thing down, it wasn't the greatest mechanically to start. And then we get into the bottom of his squat here, and we see a lot of twisting or unevenness, asymmetry. We also can see how his elbows are really, really low. So his elbows are down. And when we're catching that bar, we want to scoop those elbows up in front. And keep those elbows up as high as you can so that bar stays rolling up into you as we're getting into that position. Now, front rack squat, which is where he's in now, is a hell of a position. This is not something that we just crawl out of bed and just are going to get into a front rack squat position with good grips and everything, especially to do a power maneuver like this. You'll see a lot of people that practice or maybe do front rack squats, and they either have like a false grip where it's just like on their fingertips, or they do kind of a Dracula pose or something like that where they cross their arms across their body in front.
Oh, could this vintage store be any
Because they lack the shoulder mobility to get.
Except Discover.
And so again, when we go into power maneuvers, what's great about power maneuvers, if we have someone videotaping or watching us, is we can't hide our compensations as easily.
So we shouldn't get the
And so we see just in here that he will fail for a couple of reasons. One again is his hips aren't far enough back. Right, his hips are right, and he's like he's doing a wall sit almost. He's all in his toes if we look back here in the mirror. So his weight's already falling forward. His hips aren't back enough to counterbalance. Plus, he's got, I don't know, 45, or those 25s maybe. So 95 and another 20. So 115, 120. So whatever this young man's weight is, he's got 120 pounds on his front side that's going to pull him forward, and he's already falling forward. Like this was going to fail. Other things we can see is you look at his foot underneath him, and that foot is definitely turned out a lot. And then we see here, and as we look out in front, that knee looks to be caving inward. All right, so the toe's out, but the knee's in. So that's a compensation. The Simpsons. The old guy. That's a swat. That's a swat. That's a compensation. We've got that side kind of catawampus. And as he's coming in, he's not on his heels so much, getting the hips back. Rather, he's way up on his toes, rocking forward. And again, those elbows, he's lacking that shoulder mobility to get those elbows up Let's give it a little run. He catches it. And again, we see even when he catches it there. This guy again. So as he does, it means he's already collapsing, but you see how he has to let go of the bar to keep his elbows up there a little bit. Unfortunately, it wasn't a bad fail. It was just, it's going to happen in power cleaning from time to time, I guess. Especially if we're new to it. In those kind of instances, too, it's probably better just to completely fall versus fight for it. Get to your back and let that bar just hit the ground, or let the bumpers hit the ground. Let it slide over you. Having some tea here and stirring it up is a little cloudy. Worried. And thank y'all for being here. Appreciate y'all hanging out and watching. If you got any questions, feel free to interrupt me. Stop me. If you got anything bothering you with a particular lift, feel free and we'll chat it up. We'll talk about it. So this next one we see looks like a strong man or strong woman effort. I forget what the exact thing is called, like a log lift or a log press. And by virtue of this one, you kind of puts a lot of people into a bad with those hips way far forward, hyperextending that low back because of the girth of what you're pressing and lifting up overhead. Let's see what else happens. Too much. Oh. God, I hope that thing's soft, but I don't think it is. This is again another Olympic style lift. We got to get hip drive. But unfortunately for this gentleman too, I feel he just doesn't have that thoracic extension, and we're not getting any hips back. His hips are already so far forward. So it's just, to me, this is one of those kind of, I get it if it's your hobby and your passion and things of that nature, but this just doesn't put you in a lot of good places overall for your joint health. And then things like this may happen, but could happen with a barbell too. So as we look at this, like, not this guy again. Watch his hips. There is no hip crease. He doesn't get his butt back. He just bends the knees forward, which means, again, we're shifting the weight forward. You already got all kinds of fucking weight in front of you. So you got to go straight down, but by straight down, that means the hips have to go down, back as well to get that leg drive. You get that leg drive to get it straight up. We go forward, you're going to push back, and then again, it's finding and seeing these push and pulls, the physics of it all, if you will. Because gravity's going to win every time. Oh no. All right. I say oh no because we already look like we got a scaredy cat lift. Meaning like we're going to round the shit out of his back to get this thing up. All right. So we got a deadlift. It looks like he's using straps of some sort and some fancy shoes, some nice shoes. As we look at his shoulders, it doesn't look like we have tension in the shoulders. It looks like we may be a little collapsed in the stomach, but again, it's kind of hard to tell here. Not really sure how much weight he's lifting. These look kind of unusual weights from what I'm used to seeing. And as an unusual bar, almost looks like the bar's welded on to these things. Interesting. But that doesn't matter. As he lifts, okay, we see the hips going up first, the chest and everything, that's still staying down. And then we lift up through the back. And the legs are just like... First and foremost, bad deadlift. Not a good deadlift. Even if he gets this thing up and the green lights come on or whatever anybody wants to tell this young man, not a good lift. Not a good lift. Too much weight on the bar for him. And we see it within the first bop, right? Watch. As he applies effort, this is not the part of your back that wants to be around. Like this belt right here is saving him from his vertebra being in the ceiling. So he's holding it. He's holding tight into his stomach, but he's not lengthened into it. So we're not creating tension throughout the whole spine. And we're not keeping the spine in that static position. And as he's lifting all through his low back, right? If we look, right, we said earlier, force times distances work. So if we measure like the distance his knees travel backwards or the distance his hips go up relative to the distance of that bar. All right, let's see what happens. So we start, hips shoot up, bar still real low. Now when do those hips stop? Hips stop here. So effectively, this young man has lifted with his lower body that much. Now, watch how his hips slightly come forward and his knees, well, they don't have really anywhere else to go right now. So we watch those two landmarks. And we get to this point where the back can't lift up anymore. And the glutes and the legs just don't have anything to actually get. And that's where we're getting the just convulsions. And this is not where you want to be at this point. He'd be better off hinging it back at the hips and dropping the bar and stripping the weight and working on his form and technique. This gentleman would benefit hugely from the dowel. We got to change Paul's face for this one. Yeah. We got to change the dowel or use the dowel hip hinge to help yourself with this. Get yourself a PVC or wooden dowel, be a broomstick even, and you hold it behind the neck and the small of your neck, back. From there, you can work on working a hip hinge. I don't have any word to hinge right now. But you can work on a hip hinge, and it will tell you if you're bending at your back or some other compensation. This guy, again, if we did that test to him, even at the setup here, he's not there, right? We still have too much bend up here. He needs to pull his head further back. They use this term of pulling the slack out of the bar. So he could do that as well, packing the shoulders down and rotating the elbows in, down and in. The cue I like for this is that the bending of the bar. And it's not with your hands, but with the upper body and the shoulders. Sorry, there's a shadow flickering over there. There's a bug on the wall. Right, and so again, we see the hip shoot too far up. And this is going to now, everything goes through the back. Everything is lifting through his back now. So, too much weight. Get rid of the straps. Focus on the technique. Oh. All right. First and foremost, I never know if it's the cable's fault or something external of the cable machine. Now, in this specific case, right, we have a man rowing fairly controlled. Or he's not rowing really. He's doing again kind of back extensions again. Right? And we get to see one fully. I mean, again, it's kind of like a seated deadlift at this point. So he's not being, he's not putting a lot of over stress within ganking on it. But what we see, right, is we've got this other gentleman here holding another extra 90 pounds on top of the entire stack. And this is where sometimes we forget, this is all rigging. If any of y'all have done any type of outdoor work where you have to have carabiners or ropes, there's weight tolerances on this shit, right? The cable itself has a maximum tension strength or tensile force it can handle before it's just going to pop and snap. The carabiners, the little clippies that hold the handles on or hold it to the stack, all those things, they're all going to have certain amounts of strength and ability to hold and not deform. As soon as any deformation occurs, any little deviation occurs, man, those things are done. And so one is, inspect your equipment, make sure that, look at the handle. I'm not saying you got to come out there with, some sort of hardness tester or anything like that. You don't have to do a PMI and scan the material to see if it's really stainless steel or some carbon steel junk. But look at the carabiner. Does it look like it's closing properly? Does it look like it's frayed? Does the cable look frayed? It takes 20, not even 10 seconds. Just a quick look, check it over. It looks fine. Keep it on. Now, as far as this guy, I wanted to add 90 pounds on top of the stack. Again, I don't know what he's doing as far as the exercise. It could be, again, like a seated deadlift or some back extension kind of a thing is what it looks like. You don't need that much weight. If you feel like you need more weight and you're already working the stack, I'd ask you to check yourself on a couple of things. One, what's your tempo? And that's going to be the big killer for a lot of people. And his tempo doesn't look terrible, but again, we only catch him here at the last few, so it's hard we can't really give a full assessment in that. Now, the best tempo is going to be whatever you're not doing. So if you're already doing a nice slow grinding tempo, moving up in speed is going to be a little bit better for you. It's just going to stimulate your muscles in your body differently than what you're used to. However, likely, most of y'all are going to be kind of in and out. Like y'all trying to jump up and touch the ceiling. I just want to touch it and I'm on. I'm not going to do the rep and I'm gone. Right? That's it. What you really want to do is have this sense of reaching, touching, and then electing to come back away. Right? For pushing, right? You're gonna allow yourself down to the bottom of the push, whether it's chest press or push-ups. Be in that stretch, be in that bottom position for 2 seconds or so. Then press yourself back up and out. Or in a row, right? You allow the cable to slowly go out. You don't let it pull you. You allow it out. And then when we row, right, we get that nice big squeeze and feeling the lats and the back work. And then we stop and hold it for about, again, 2 seconds. And then allow it back out nice and controlled. If you try like a 4-2 tempo, 4 seconds to bring it down or up as far as like the eccentric, the elongation phase, pause for 2 seconds, and then 2 seconds contraction. So either like that pulling or the bringing it back to you or pushing it away from you, depending on your exercise selection. Slowing your tempo down will do wonders for you. If you're saying, no, John, tempo's already great. What else can I do? Change your rep scheme. So by virtue of changing your rep scheme, you'll change how much weight you can or cannot do. So if this gentleman's already doing, if he's trying to get something like 15, 20 reps with this, then it's going to be something more like, let's take you to single arm exercises or a different machine, and we'll target it different ways. Likely though is we increase your reps, you're going to need to lower the weight significantly to be able to complete all sets and reps to that volume. So that's another way. Again, if you've been doing like a 5x5, starting strength is a very popular program. It may be something that you look into going into something that's a little more bodybuilding-esque or hypertrophy focused, something that's going to hit you in those 15 to 30 rep ranges. It doesn't mean forever. It's not a sentence, right? It's just give yourself a little different flavor if you've been hitting the same stuff all the time. We're all guilty of it. We all find our favorite rep ranges and we stick to them. Either they make us feel good or we like just the cadence of the lift. We always find that rhythm that we enjoy most. So if you find that, again, you're already taking the stack to the limit, slow yourself down, slow your reps down, see how that does first. Check your rep ranges. Maybe it's time for you to change your progressive overload, go into a different phase of training. And then you can go into unilateral training, single arm training. You could also try different widths, different bar attachments. So they're going to be different. Some that are going to have a different width. Some are going to have different grips as far as your hand orientation. So those are going to be different ways you could challenge yourself without necessarily having to overload. And I guess one last quick thought would be supersets. And again, supersets can either work with the exercise or they can, be antagonistic, work opposite. So in here, he's working some sort of row. So again, you could do some sort of other rowing motion, pulling motion. You can be bicep curls, or you can do something like push-ups and then rowing. Now, they won't necessarily fatigue out the lats in the same way as like hitting them twice. If you did some sort of like pullovers and then rows. But it's keeping yourself moving, that's going to keep your cardiovascular up, it's going to have you winded. And if you're still working antagonistic muscles together, there is a kind of a synergistic effect, if you want to think of it that way. The way I would program it would be taking yourself down and doing your push-ups, making sure we get a big stretch to the chest, and then come straight into doing your lat rows or your seated rows. And you'll find that you'll actually get a little more maybe squeeze to your back because the chest is a little bit more fatigued and not so collapsed in. It'll help you stimulate. So in that regard, it may make it feel more tiring or more taxing on you without necessarily changing the weight or doing anything more. And you were working the chest versus more back and back and back. And what I like about that, and again, you can improve your shoulder mobility by hitting both sides of the body. And there he goes. Ugh. I don't even think we need to play the rest of this. Paul's already got the right face up there. Like, part of me feels this is a skit, just the way how badly like they're setting it up, and the guys over. I used to work in a gym just similar to this setup. This is a much nicer setup than what we have had. I don't know what's going on. Maybe there's a class. Maybe it's open gym time. This guy is asshole number one. Nothing against him. He's just being an asshole in that he's unloading all the weights from one side. This guy, though, I won't call him an asshole, but I would really look to maybe be on the green, just on the edge of the green, not necessarily under the weights, especially under someone else's weights. Or you can be on the platform portion underneath your bar, right? And that would be a little more protection provided. Being underneath just wouldn't be a good time. Not a good place to be. And let's see if we see a murder. Yeah, I think that was a CGI or something. There's no way that was real. Oh. We see kind of the common shoulder stuff. Now, I don't know. From this angle, it's a little tough to see. I do feel he has a right asymmetry. He looks like he shifts a little to the right. I feel his knees again look like they're collapsing in a little bit. And both feet look kind of rotated out too much a little to me as well. And so again, what I always tell people as far as our feet positioning. I need the paint again. I gotta save this one for paint. I draw this one too much. But when it comes to our feet in our squat setup, you got your big toe, our big toe pad, and then we got the rest of our foot, right? And there's the heel. And the small pad. And then the rest of the toes. Whatever. We want to keep a line between these 2 points. The heel and that big toe pad. Now this is terribly drawn anatomically, sense-wise. So if we did it more like, yeah, that, and then give me another one. One other. Give me another circle, damn it. Yeah, that's good enough. And then we add that like that. Oh wait. Give me another circle. Oh, I got check mark. And then over here is, well, I guess we'll go a little more oblong for this one, right? And then out here is the outer pad. Well, terrible drawing. The original one was better. So any way we can move that foot is fine, as long as you're able to maintain this sort of relationship. And if there was a line on the ground, your big toe pad and your heel stayed on that line. We look at this, gentlemen, that's not the case, right? If we had two parallel lines down here, his big toe just might be passing the outside edge of this right heel. And his left foot, again, that inseam looks like it would not be passing the heel. Now, part of this looks like a strength issue more than a compensation issue. He gets to a depth where he lacks the strength, and then he just gets pushed down. He looks to have decent mobility. To me, it looks like his teeth get knocked out. Those are his earbuds. So what are some things that he could have done better for himself here? So first and foremost, not knowing his program, not knowing where he is in his training, it's hard to pinpoint some of this. If you're ever taking on weights or mass that you're not sure about for whatever reason, whether it's, again, you're getting to max lifting again, and you're trying to find your goalpost or your new marks, or you're just trying something new for the first time, a box squat is excellent. I wouldn't necessarily do a box squat with this much weight right out the gate, but if you use a box squat as you build into it, or just do a whole, 2 or 3 sets of box squats, it helps you find your depth. And if you do have a sticking point, you have that box there to sit on and regain composure, so to speak, get yourself out. Or if worse comes to it, you're able to you can bail and just throw the bar off of yourself, off the back, so to speak. Now, the other thing is this guy's not using any safeties. So if he had safeties as well, right there is where he loses it. He wouldn't have completely collapsed into himself. When you're working weights heavier or getting to max weights that you're not used to, always err on the side of being able to get the fuck back up, right? Yes, there's benefit to getting deeper stretches. Yes, there's benefit to getting as deep into the positions as you can, but there's more benefit coming out and walking away versus the weights crushing you. So again, if you're not sure, that's where something like a box squat is really helpful. The safeties, paramount. You could even do things like deficit squats, where you start the bar at the bottom and you get under the bar and stand up with it, right? You can do all kinds of crazy shit. But don't do this kind of crazy shit where you get under a bar, especially this is like 315 pounds. Right there is about where he can still stand up with it. And then it takes over. All right. Yep. What are we working here? I don't know. I mean, it really feels to me like it started out as like a thirst trap. So we have the band. We're anchored up behind us. We're holding the band one-handed or two. I'm not sure which. And she's hip hinging forward. Like, this is even her stomach, right? She's not bending. We can see it's all in the hips. Her back is flat. So she's not really working abdominals. So this is her working her hip flexors with gravity, right? Gravity. Now, maybe she's working some glutes to, again, she's using the band to let herself down, and then you squeeze the glutes to lift yourself back up, like kind of like reverse Nordic curls or something like that, or some Nordic, yeah, I don't know. But if that, I'm not sure what she's working. She's working on with a headache now. But yeah, so she got the band, yeah, I don't know. So if you're trying to work your hip flex, I'm just trying to think because the resistance is behind you, so it's you have to work to pull yourself forward. How would we go about this? So to me, it's like dead bugs. Just do dead bugs. You do hanging straight leg raises or bent leg raises. You could, worst comes to it, right? You could just put the band around your hips and, oh no, that's the wrong way, right? You'd have to put and put it around your booty, I guess, and push your hips back. So that's probably not as beneficial. Thinking of it the other way to help with the hinge. She could even do things like go into a glute bridge, land on your back, bridge up to where your extended hips, and then you could march one leg at a time. And if that's too easy, again, using a band around the feet to help work that march. Even standing in place or doing high knees in place with a band over the arches, over the shoelaces, and working that high knee with a band would be a lot better, I feel, and it would not end up with you getting slapped in the back of the head with a fucking green monster band. Ugh. All right. Too fast and you just killed yourself. That was the last time I worked out with my friend. As always, not knowing what the program, where they are within the workout, how this came to be in this scenario. What I feel I see initially is one really big dude and one kind of big dude. If you're working out with a partner, it sucks when you're like the weaker one or the smaller one of the two, because it always feels like, you know, you're having to take all the weights off for them to do their workout. And you might be the bigger dude and might not like having to take all the weights off or taking all the weights off for the little dude to do their workout, right? Like, it sucks for both sides, but it's nice that you have someone to help. Just because y'all are the same age, maybe y'all could even be brothers, identical twin brothers. Does not mean y'all can lift the same. When I first did CrossFit, I remember one time standing next to a guy who I thought was about my same size, and I felt, I was athletic. I did things like, I can do this. I damn near threw my back out. I learned this the hard way too. Now, the other side of this is maybe that they were both working this and just fine, and they finally got to this point where he's fatigued. Spotter, you should be ready for it already. The other thing is slower on the way down. So that way, if something does happen, it ain't going to be breaking your throat. And the last big thing we see, or I'm going to highlight, is again, he's quite literally like doing a guillotine style chest press, which maybe that's what they're working. Maybe that's the goal, right? But as far as a better strength position, because right now he's not really recruiting the chest. He's more recruiting, again, these underneath his clavicles and some delts and triceps even. Like, I know you want to have we think that we get wide, we're going to have a wider grip, we're going to get more stretch to the chest, and that is true to a degree. But when we get so far up, where is that bar over? That bar is going to be right over our collarbone, not our chest, not the pecs. He needs to bring his hands down, bring his elbows towards his ribs. And this will accomplish two things for you. One, it'll help you engage your serratus anterior, which all you need to know about that is it helps stabilize your shoulder. It keeps that shoulder sitting nice and down and back. It does have a component of helping you push as well. But more importantly, we want to focus on that shoulder staying down and back. So that also means we bring those elbows down and then we press. So it's going to get the chest to actually drive more purely, and it's going to help you be in that stable shoulder position. Spotters, be ready, y'all. Like, you're watching this and sure, you might think he's got 4 or 5 or 10, whatever. Watch how fast this goes down. Be down there before that even gets there. All right. I also don't like the foot position. Very kind of sloppy or haphazard. You want to think of it that way. Find your feet about hips width apart. Have your feet planted in the ground if you're doing a full flat bench. Making sure your core is engaged. You still want to bring awareness to your lower body. Excuse me. Getting contractions into that lower body will help you create a greater contraction in the chest as well. Off with his head. Oh. Sorry. Unfortunately, it does, we all have our mass does not displace mass. It's one of those kind of situations where if you can try to rotate out of it and just throw one side off. That sucks. Getting kind of trapped in there. The other thing is you can always holler for some help. I know it's kind of embarrassing, but hollering for help, someone will come up and get you there. All right. So what we seem to be doing is some sort of lever position. Banded assist. Not terrible. What we see though is we're using not the best equipment or best tool for the job. Now there's a lot of home pull-up equipment that you can use. If you're going to use a home pull-up machine, I recommend one that tilts into the door frame. This one is more akin to a shower rod, a shower curtain rod, in that it expands inside of the door jamb or inside of a space and presses against two parallel surfaces. And it's fine as long as there's no twisting or shifting or rocking or unintended adjustment of that jack screw or that screw within the pull-up bar. The home pull-up bar that I prefer is going to be the style that you loops into the door. And so there's a piece that's pushing on the back as well as a piece that's pushing on the front side. And so that kind of shearing force that it generates really does a good job of it staying in place. That said, it will not help with like kipping pull-ups if you're doing anything ballistic or kind of power driven. Would have been great for this though. So what we see here, this is a really great exercise for core engagement. This is a really great exercise for, again, that serratus anterior, helping work on thoracic extension and all kinds of good stuff for our shoulder mobility. The band here helps, again, take some of the pressure off the legs and the abdominals to get you here. And again, like he looks to be doing it for static holds, which is fine. And the fail ultimately here is just not choosing the right equipment at home. So I'm not sure what's going on here. The individual definitely is seeming a little erratic with the movement. To me, it feels like just someone who's trying to mimic the best they can, but doesn't know or doesn't have the coaching.
Shopping with your parents can be embarrassing.
Why would they sell jeans with holes in them? I'm going to speak to the manager.
Mom,
That hoodie is giving. You should get it. YOLO.
Thanks to the Chase.
I mean, they aren't using too much weight, it looks like,
You keep an
but
eye
it's
on
too
the
much for
You
them.
can go from
And we can kind of see even as they're holding their body right here.
Thanks, Mom.
freedom for kids.
Right, in this position, we can see again the shoulders are really rolled forward, and the head is way forward as well. And so this is again giving us a story that this individual is real tight up in this upper portion, in the collarbone, even in the throat. And so the exercise they're doing wouldn't be bad to help with some of that. However, just the ballistic nature they're performing it in is not ideal. And again, it's more likely going to cause injury versus helping them. Now, I think with this, whoever's videotaping this is the individual doing the exercise or someone sneaking around. I think they're more interested in that the person is hip hinged and like has their butt driving into the pole. I mean, I don't know that that'd be necessarily comfortable. And I would say if you're having to wedge yourself against the machine, you're probably either got too much weight on there or you're being too creative with the exercise. Here we're doing overhead. We're trying to get to approximate an overhead tricep extension, right? I get the cable machine may not go up much higher than what you got. Hip hinging's okay. Again, I wouldn't hip hinge to where I'm getting pulled into the rack. If that is the case, I don't think we can see we don't see the stack moving either. This is kind of like a brain crusher, skull crusher. I mean, similar exercise. Again, I would just not have myself pushed into the machine. Now, another way you might be able to mimic this is if you're willing to, is put a mat on the ground and kneel. And then you can still be in that upright position and trying to mimic it versus doing it from a hip hinge. Now, again, if you're trying to do it from the hip hinge, that's fine too. Drawn into our core, hip hinge, and then trying to get those overhead cable extensions is fine as well. But again, if you feel like you're being pulled into and you have to brace against it, I would look at different ways of going about it. I feel you get yourself a similar exercise without the awkwardness, let's call it, with that you see it in the background. These easy curl bars. Easy curl bars. You can grab one of those and just lay down on the ground. Knock them out. Same exercise. A little different in that you're using free weight versus a cable. But at the end of the day, it's not wrong. Now, this would be more, I would like to get Paul's input on this one. Unfortunately, like I said, he's not here tonight. To me, this is just, you're setting yourself up for a bad time. This young man, I think to me, this feels like someone just kind of screwing around in the gym. But if they're not and they think this is how they're supposed to work out, so be it. They need to hopefully get some help and do it properly, and that this is eventually going to cause them a lot of hip issues, I would assume. Now, based on how far he's got his toes rotated and his knees are rotating and tracking properly. Pardon me, y'all. Been a long day. A lot of rain today, too. Based on like how open his knees are and his feet are, right? We got almost nearly 180 degree rotation left or right. Is hyper contracted in the glutes now. And we're on a leg press machine, and that's fine. And so it does take a little bit of him being like you would never squat this way. If you tried, it wouldn't be a good thing. It'd be very unbalanced. Just trying to see his torso move as he allows it down. So again, to me, this is just we're working the body in a position that it doesn't really ever need to work into. Even if you're some sort of soccer phenom, you know, I don't see this having translation into your soccer game. Now, maybe there's some sort of dance or, you know, some sort of niche practice that requires him to have strength in these extremely rotated positions. Like I can see like ballet or ballerinas, you know, having some sort of exercise similar to this. But the difference is a ballerina would be in an extended position, a standing position in trying these things, whereas he's in a seated position. So, you know, we have to think about is, like I said earlier in the stream, we will adapt or have adaptations in the gym. Let me peel back. If we have a specific goal in mind that is movement specific, so if it's a football player having to do a swim or a rip move to get through the line, or a baseball player having to get that arm out long to get a full throw from outfield to the infield, or swimmers, you know, working a you know, I forget what the stroke is, but we get both arms coming up and over, or a butterfly stroke, right? Golfers, right? We got to swing, and we only swing one way relative to the body, one hand over the other. There's not a lot of exercises that are going to mimic those movements. We can try to create those within the gym, and it could look like something like this guy's doing, or some of the other kind of odd brain head scratchers. But the best thing that helps you with those endeavors is going to be the sport or the activity itself. That's why I say a ballerina, you're never going to see a ballerina hip hinged, or not for very long, right? It might be a little gimmick or something in the show, but they're not going to be in this type of position. And that's what I'm saying. Like, this position isn't going to yield us a lot of benefits from an anatomical reasoning standpoint. And then it makes you want, so now we're over contracting into our glutes, which then is going to leave this young man very bow-legged, very externally rotated if this is something he does a lot of, which then will lead into low back pain and some other issues for himself. All right, we're moving the whole stack. So there's a couple of things again going in here. One, I'm gonna kind of call it ego lifting because it is the whole stack, and he's buddy's recording him, or someone's recording him, and he falls, right? But again, this guy takes that weight and that stack about the half, and he stops using the legs to push him back. And he stops trying to using his body weight to lean back. And he just sits there as tall as he can and only allows his arms to move. And then when he allows that weight back out, his body doesn't move as well. It's going to be a completely different exercise that doesn't require that much weight, which wouldn't have put so much stress on that cable, which wouldn't have made it pop. And this is what I keep falling back, y'all, is I know big numbers gets everybody all tickly in their neither regions, and they get all excited. Look what I did, Mom. We're gonna put it on the refrigerator. But are you gonna put your CAT scan or your X-ray or your MRI on there too? Like, the fruit is not worth the squeeze, y'all. Lower the weight. Find how to do it with proper technique. With just your body weight, you will still put muscle on. You will still get bigger than all get out. I promise you. You will be the envy of everybody on the playground. But doing where you're lifting so much that you're using shit technique and you're causing damage to the equipment, and then like that could be a broken neck right there, y'all. I know I'm again sound like people's mom and dad, but like that could be a snap neck. And for what? Anyway. Get off my lawn. Sketchiest rep I've ever seen. Yep. So let's watch this again from the go. And so whenever you watch deadlifts, I want you to start looking for this. Does the bar, what moves first, the bar or the person? Or do they move in sync? And when they move in sync, do we see that the hips are moving or do we see just the back moving? All right. So those are two things to kind of watch when you're looking at any deadlift or any squat footage. Is the bar moving with the body, and what in the body is moving relative to the rest of the body? This looks like he's setting up. Don't love the spine position. Don't love the head position. Now we're engaging, right? He's already started to lift. We see one by the face, but also the contour of his back. That back is still super bent, right? And even his head's lifting up even more as he's trying to lift this. And then we start humping it up, kind of a thing. And at this point, it's all right. You don't need it. This is not a lift. We're using momentum and we're trying to catch it. So this is, again, he's way too much weight. And this was way too much weight probably 3 plates ago. Y'all see it? Let's see how much that bar moves. So his hips, his body all goes up, and now the bar just started moving. And where it is, what else starts as the bar goes up? What of his body is moving as well? So the knees pull back. So now we've used that. That's what you think, right? We have to remember, quads have done their job. They can't do anymore. There is nothing left for the quads to do. You think of like a hydraulic piston, one of them backhoes, an excavator that moves dirt, right? If that thing reaches out and pulls dirt to it and just stays closed in, it can't go out and get more dirt, right? You have to go release it back out. Well, this guy's quads are already contracted. His knees are already straight. There's nothing more that they can do. They can't help anymore. All that can do is bend, which is going to lower the bar. Or he bends them to wedge the bar on top of his knees so he can try to drag it up that way. Again, knees lock out, we wedge underneath, and then we try to hump it up our body. Be some nasty bruises on that dude's thighs. And he tries to walk it under. If you are this individual, not this guy, but even if you are this one, but if you find this is how you're lifting weights, and just because you're not in pain or don't have pain, I highly, highly encourage you to seek help in improving your technique. Because this isn't a matter of if, it's a matter of when. He will have a blown out back. He will have a bulge disc. He will have a hernia. Like, he's going to have issues if he continues lifting this way. There is not a sure bet unless he just got hit by a car on the way out of the gym, right? That right there is what he's training. That posture right there is what he's training. You know, we have these envisionments of health and fitness, right? I'm going to be kind of a shithead for a second. Right, like, what is it? Men's Health Magazine, right? If we look on the front of these things, right? Everybody's big, tall, and ripped, right? Broad shoulders, long stomachs. Now, a lot of that too comes from what? Various supplements. They have personal chefs. All they do is work out. But they're also not practicing this position. This position will only lead to that position. Even if he gets out of it, right? He's not engaged his body in this long manner or in this collapsed state. And he spends the majority of the lift in that state. Oh no. This is a lady trying to do what she can. Now, again, this guy doesn't need to be recording this lady doing the equipment wrong. You'd be better off like asking her, hey, what are you trying to work on? There's another machine for this. This is meant to be for this or that. Right? And it's not wrong to help people that way. But videotaping them and making fun of them, man, that ain't cool. That ain't worth it. So this is to me, what looks to be a chest fly or a rear delt machine, depending on which way you sit in the machine, versus an adductor or abduction machine for the legs. And so if you were looking for the machine for like the adductors, it's typically going to have little pads where your knees would sit on, and you could work them that way. And this one has handles to grip on to be able to denote that it's meant to be held on to. You know, and in the grand scheme of things, it's not the end of the world. She's able to work those in a similar fashion. It's not that bad. Yeah, I have more issues with the guy sitting here videotaping her while she's doing it. Yep, that's a problem. Yep. Where'd they go? That was the last one there. This is a really excellent squat. There's some things I could probably nitpick and argue over. Like I feel like as he's right here, the hips start rising a bit. So it goes down good. The hips rise a little bit. He's still grinding, still grinding, still grinding, still grinding, and then he kind of gets back up and a little lift of the back. Shit ton of weight though. Excellent grind. Now the fail here, if anything, and you know, I guess I put it on the gym, maybe. Certain bars are only rated for certain weights, and when we got the wrong bar for the wrong weight, this is gonna happen. Like this dude there's I don't know how much weight on either side of this fucking bar, right? And he's pushing that much force up in the middle of the bar, and quite literally it's bending the bar in half. If you are one of these rare humans that is able to move hundreds of pounds via squat or deadlift, you need to make sure you're working at a gym that has the appropriate equipment that is suited and rated for such things. We're making a lot of noise today about cables machines and not having like the proper cable attachments, or that they're stretched out and such, and they snap. Well, that's basically what's happening here, just much slower and less catastrophic in a lot of senses. So this is kind of a very fucking rare one. If this was you, again, I think what you see here as he walks one side in, and then I think the video ends before we see him get out of there. You just see his little fuck, and then there's not much you can do at this point, and it's just gracefully exit as best you can and fuck her up, because not much can be done in that case. All right, y'all. Well, y'all successfully survived another stream. Feels better for me. I can see the chat. I'm not drinking more of that tea. It's all cloudy. Well, y'all, not too wild of a night. We finally made it through one video of gym fails. We'll have to figure something out for next week. We're going to be kicking it this coming Thursday morning. We'll be going over some form checks via Reddit. Again, more of kind of what we did tonight, but less sensationalism. So feel free to slide in, check out if you got questions, or if you want to try to get your form or your squat checked, or it doesn't have to be squat, it'd be chest press or any exercise. Holler at us, give me a DM, whisper at us, hit us up on YouTube. I have a Reddit account, but I don't know what the name of it is, so that doesn't help anybody. And like I say, we're here to help out anybody trying to start their fitness journey. Maybe you've been injured on a fitness journey, or been injured outside of fitness and are trying to get back into it. You want to make sure you get into the safest way possible. You've done physical therapy, or you've seen doctors and you still don't quite feel like you have the right answer. We're not doctors, we're not physical therapists, we're just two fitness nerds that have studied a lot in exercise and body mechanics, and we're trying to share that knowledge, and this could be for you. So if you got questions about movement or about pain related to movement, that's what Range Fitness Online's about. Check us out here on stream, on Twitch, or on YouTube. Like I said, Thursday we'll be hitting it up, and then as well Friday evening. Until then, y'all have a good one. Thank y'all for stopping by. Always appreciate y'all's coming through. Let me clear that up for a hot second. And then without further ado, y'all have a good night. As always, stay mindful as fuck and don't compensate. Be well.